Welcome to Lifting Leaders Podcast, where we are unleashing leader possibilities to make a better world. I'm Crystal Roberts, and together with Trisha Ryan, we're diving deeper into some of the complexities of the world's most critical challenges and exploring innovative ways of navigating through them.
Through interviews with experts and leaders just like you, we're exploring what it takes to thrive as a leader today and examining new ways of thinking about how to creatively lead into a more equitable, socially responsible, and sustainable future. And the future starts now.
Hi, Trisha. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Crystal, how about yourself?
I'm doing awesome. I'm really excited about today's special guest.
I know.
Yes. So last November, we had an amazing guest on as part of our series focused on coaching and how that work helps to make a better world. And she talked with us, this special guest, about millennials and how they lead. And she also let us know that she was writing a book and that it would be coming out in spring of 2025. And it's spring of 2025.
It is. I was holding my breath, but you know what? I don't think I need to anymore.
It's here. It's here. And so really excited to have Melissa Castro back with us. Welcome, Melissa. She's going to
Thank you.
Yeah. She's going to talk with us about her new book. But before we jump into that, I wanted to share her background again. So if you want to actually hear the whole episode that we had last time, it was dropped on November 11th. So you can go back and get the full story there. But I am going to read her bio so that you can know a little bit more about her, especially if this is your first time hearing about Melissa. Melissa Castro is a leadership and team development coach. As the managing principal at Intrinsic Lead, she helps leaders beat burnout, build sustainable teams, and use their influence to create positive change, both personally and professionally. Melissa focuses on helping leaders, especially millennials, recognize their potential, trust their expertise, and embrace their influence. That is definitely making a better world. She brings a practical, down-to-earth style while having unique experience from the halls of U.S. Congress to supporting a globally renowned philanthropist to working with clients across the globe in Latin America, Africa, and Europe. She holds a master's degree in organizational and change leadership, is an ICF accredited coach with certifications in energy leadership, positive intelligence, and core energy diversity coaching, and is a psychological safety index certified practitioner. Her upcoming book. No, her book. It's here. Intrinsic Leadership was just released, and it's a coaching guide designed to help millennials lead in all areas of their lives, empowering them to step up as the leaders they're meant to be. Originally from Southern California, Melissa now lives in the Pacific Northwest with her husband Pablo, 4 dogs, and 5 chickens. When not writing or hanging with her pack, Melissa loves to travel and has been to all 50 U.S. states, which I think is so interesting. Yeah, so welcome, Melissa. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me back. I am just thrilled to be invited back on the pod. And yeah, there's so many exciting things happening. I think exciting, interesting, all kinds of things happening out in the world. But yeah, some exciting, interesting things happening right here in the Castro camp for sure.
I love that. And I'm excited to hear about all of that. But my first question is, how are the chickens?
The chickens are good. They are, we've done a full production line of, now we have like the egg crates and everything because
I love it.
We get so many eggs that we cannot possibly eat them all.
Wow.
We share with our neighbors and stuff around. And so we have a couple of distribution hubs, if you will, within our little neighborhood where we have like an egg drop situation set up with them and drop them in their package drop. They bring the cartons back. So it's been fun and a connecting activity, an unexpected connect to the neighborhood activity too.
And what a product to be giving away these days. Oh my goodness, right?
People are thrilled to receive eggs.
Yeah.
Farm fresh.
Wow, that's so cool. That was my first serious question, but I just had to know, how are the chickens?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what should we know about you since you've been on the podcast? And again, if people want to go back and hear your full journey, where you told us your story, they can go back to the November 11th episode. But since then, what should we know about you?
The main thing is really just that I'm officially a published author.
Yay!
That is what is eclipsing my world in the best ways
Yes.
these days. So fresh, just a couple days fresh. I launched earlier this week, technically on May 13th. And so it feels like a very pivotal point for me because there's all of this pre-launch, pre-published stuff.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're an author, but you're not a published one yet. And it's not like out in the world. You can't go buy it anywhere. And now that it is out there, I feel not like a different person, but now that I've switched gears into like the next part of this journey, and it's still very, very new.
Yeah. So now do you feel like a real author?
I do feel like a real author, and I still have a lot of holy crap moments where like I have a book in my hands. And it's surreal and also humbling, and to hear what people are saying and thinking about it, and to see my friends receive it in the mail, to hear some strangers on social media posting comments, and there's been a lot of pride and support that people have expressed in ways that has made me cry off a lot of my mascara here and there.
Oh.
It feels like a blinding light of a lot of love that I didn't anticipate in like the initial like launch phase of just like people coming out of the woodwork to say very nice things.
And it's only the beginning.
I know.
I think you need to get used to this because it's only the beginning, really. You've just written a book. You just published a book, and I know that you're probably going, holy crap. But the reality is that, you're going to settle into this. And then when people see you in airports or wherever, they're going to say, oh, that's the author of Intrinsic Leadership.
Oh, wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah. Well,
Well, and it's definitely a book that's needed. And so I think that's what's really cool too, is it's not just that there's a new book is out. It's one that people need to read.
Well, and so that's the next question, because we've asked you this before, but I'm going to ask you again, and that is, why did you write the book?
Yeah.
So I wrote the book because I noticed this trend in my coaching. I noticed that my millennial clients, and non-millennials too, I predominantly coach millennials, but this was this common thread of burnout, of feeling disconnected with who someone is, what they're about. And, it's went beyond the basics of like, do you know your values? And let's figure out your values, which is an empowering and powerful thing, right? We know this in coaching, that knowing your values is like the bare bones. You got to start there. But then there started to be, as I did more research, I talked to more people, and I thought about my own journey, that it wasn't just about burnout. And this book isn't just about burnout. It was really that I felt, my personal experience was, I was burned out, and I got burned out because I was trying to subscribe and lean into a success formula that was written for somebody else. That wasn't me. And I don't know if it's a generational thing. I do propose some generational views on that in my book, but it was just that I was following the success formula from somebody else's playbook, if you will.
Yeah.
And, my corporate life span and what I was doing to feel and be successful created this divide between who I thought I was supposed to be out in the world and on paper and how I was supposed to look, and who I actually am and who I want to be and what I want to be about. And I just noticed this divide happening with my clients too. It was more than burnout, and it was a disconnection of self. And that's where I started realizing, you know what? I don't have to let my life just do what it's doing, and I'm just like, it's happening to me. I get to actually choose how I'm going to live my life and how I'm going to lead it. And that became a foundational principle in my coaching practice. And kind of as I niched down into like, who am I coaching and what am I coaching them for? It's really that I wanted to help millennials lead the kinds of lives they want to live. And I use the word lead intentionally because I don't think that life just happens to us. I think things do happen. We have to adapt. All that happens. There's ups and downs for sure. But we have so much influence. We have so much intrinsic worth and value and strengths and gifts to bring to the table. And so we don't have to just sit here and let our lives tell us which way to go. We can actually drive. And that's where this book started really taking hold into this deeper leadership philosophy, coming full circle for me, and then putting some tactical strategic application for how can we live into our own leadership, the leadership that comes from within us. And that's what, the definition of intrinsic leadership is.
I love that. I love that because so many people suppress that, and, just what you're talking about. But, and it's generationally, you can almost see it, incrementally more suppressed or less suppressed as, you look at my generation, people suppressed a lot of stuff. I mean, they just kind of wanted to show up and please everybody.
Yeah,
but,
definitely.
But honestly, it is a real issue, and you can see people walking around feeling it. You can actually see how they are, this isn't me, this isn't who I am. And it's almost you almost feel like we're about to have a rebellion of that,
Yes.
And okay, right?
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. This intrinsic leadership, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. A few years ago, back in grad school, my end of term paper, my kind of culmination of all of the studies that we did in organizational leadership and change management and systems thinking and all these things was to have a philosophy on leadership. And so intrinsic leadership was born back in grad school. So this is my Gonzaga organizational leadership shout out. This was my very formative years as a coach when I was wrapping up grad school, starting coaching school, and really kind of sinking into like, what does leadership mean to me? And how do I want to live in my own leadership skin, so to speak? And so intrinsic leadership came up as I was researching and thinking about, I do believe that all people are leaders, whether we manage others or not. We talked about this last time on the pod.
Yeah.
And we share that belief that everybody has leadership potential, capabilities, capacity. And I got to thinking, like, where does leadership come from? How does it get inside us? We work to build it. We do professional development. We do all these things. And as I started discovering my own values and thinking about how I show up in the spaces I'm in, thinking about the energy that I bring into the spaces, the energy I give and get from others. This is where my energy leadership coaching side comes in. I realized that not only are people inherently leaders, but our leadership and our natural gifts come through. They are intrinsic to us. And so this is how intrinsic leadership was born. And I really latched onto that concept. My business is intrinsic lead on purpose because I think that we have a lead, like we are, if we think about it more as an action statement, like we have the upper hand if we are leading from within, but also on the flip side, we can cultivate and kind of bring to the surface what is already intrinsic if we uncover some of the more hidden aspects of ourselves, the things that we're not willing to see or having a hard time, wrapping our fingers around. And this comes back to that disconnection of self. I think it was born in that disconnection of self where I'm just like, no, like it's in there. I know it is. I've been called a leader. And I didn't always believe it. And so it was really about, not how do I make myself believe it, but how do I just clarify what is already in there? And again, what I want to be about, what kind of legacy I want to live, how I want to lead my life. And everybody looks very different in how they go about doing that. And that is where the intrinsic piece for me in working with millennials, I think it comes back to authenticity.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that philosophy. I'm so aligned with that as far as it's already there. And it's not about imposing other things on people, but it's like, how do we peel away the layers and all the stuff that sort of has stuck to us so that we can see that blossom. Yeah.
And it feels so much like a deeper dive than we're used to doing in typical coaching. And it's not therapy, but it sort of feels like it, right? Because people are taking that way deeper dive, to really unwrap who they are. I love this whole idea. I think this is such a great time for something like this. And you've already talked about this a little bit, but tell us a little more about why this book is so special.
Thanks for asking that question. I think this book is special. It's funny because I just wrapped up a book club, a women's leadership book club. I won't name the other book that we read because it was a controversial book. It was very much it felt to me like an assimilation to corporate culture and the old formula of success. And so we got to the end of that and we were really rumbling with this in book club. And they're like, well, what's the alternative? What's the answer? If we're not going to do this corporate success formula where we're working on climbing the ladder and, showcasing ourselves and all these things, what do we do instead? And I'm just like, we become intrinsic leaders and we lead from within. We lead on our own terms. And it's not to dismiss some of these strategies, some of the, we do need to play the corporate game. We do need to have some systems and structures that we're aware of, that are real, that impact different people in different ways. There's a lot to explore and unpack, but why I think this book is so special is because, one, it's written directly to millennials. It's applicable for a broad audience, but it's written to millennials because I am a millennial and I've read many, many books about leadership and success and communication even, and how do we do that successfully. And I just didn't feel like it spoke to me. I didn't feel like it was with the times. I didn't feel like it let me be authentic and truly lead from within, right? Lead from the intrinsic gifts that I have, lead from who I am and what I'm about. It always felt like I was trying to conform again to someone else's success formula. And I took a step in a different direction with this. I start this book by sharing how I walked away from my corporate successful job, and I was crashing and burning in my life. And a lot of millennials and others are doing the same. We come to this breaking point, and I don't think we need to crash and burn to get to this break point. My hope is that this book will offer an alternative view where if you're towing the line on crashing and burning out, then here are some alternative thinking. It starts with divorcing disempowerment is chapter 1. And then we go into this journey of, the list of things that are challenging and complicated and hard and how we can start thinking about those things differently. I talk about feeling and healing so that we can get real about our actual work and what we need and want to do. And then I go into this leadership journey and how do you cultivate and bring to the surface your values and your legacy that you're wanting to build. And so I think this book is different because it's not an overly tactical framework for assimilating to success as American society defines it. It's really leading life on your own terms. And again, looks so different for every different client that I have. One thing is important to one person, something totally different is important to another. And how can you cultivate and feel successful with that? It's just like, it got really fun to talk to other millennials about how they thought about leadership themselves and the possibilities that are out there for us if we see ourselves as a leader of our own lives.
Oh my, this is such a shift, and I love it. I love the shift. We've spent many, many years looking at leadership books, right? Leadership books, and it's always form of business. It's always around, what do you do in a business world? And to me, this is way bigger than that. This is like, how do you live in the world? How do you exist differently? And I love that because it's, I almost shy away from leadership books anymore just because they seem to follow the same format. I had a lot of reading when I was in my graduate programs, and I'll tell you, it was something I did because I thought I had to do, but now I shy away from them because it doesn't feel like it connects too much to the person that's reading it. And so this sounds just the opposite of that. I can't wait to read this book. I want to see what it, where it takes me. But I love the idea of an entire well, more than one generation, but an entire generation sinking in with this philosophy and see what it does with them. You know, it may shift the way businesses do business. Wouldn't that be lovely?
Yeah.
Right?
And I think millennials are, you know, we're the predominant members of the workforce now. We're the biggest group in the workforce. We've got 5 generations in the workforce, so more generations in the workforce than we've ever had before. Right. And millennials are in that middle ground, a lot of middle managers and rising into senior leadership now. And as generational shifts happen, culture shifts happen with them. And I do think, and I talk quite a lot about this in the book, that millennials are pushing the envelope in different ways.
Yes.
Differently than past generations, which each generation does, right? Each generation leaves its mark, has its tendencies and trends, and it's also not all one big vacuum. People have unique experiences and contexts, but within the millennial generational cohort, I do think there is a lot of synergy because we are such a global group. We've always been connected to each other across the world through the internet. So it's not just our neighborhoods anymore. It's our workplaces, it's our communities, it's the online community. So we're a global group, and there's a lot of us, and we're rising up into the leadership ranks. And I will say the flip side of that is many millennial leaders are getting to that zone of like, oh, I am in the driver's seat. Am I equipped to be here? Am I allowed to be here? Should I be leading in this space? And this is also a confidence building exercise of not just figuring out what your values are and who you're about, but being confident in all of the things that you bring to the table is another really big piece of this book.
Yeah. Awesome. So when they get to that last page, what do you hope that they take away from this book? And maybe even if you have a dream for action that they'll take.
Well, I don't want to give too many spoilers here, but I will say when they get to that last page, and I'll censor my expletives because this is a public podcast, but I want them to be like, heck yes, let's do this. Like, let me go at it. Let me do it. I'm ready. I'm empowered. And empowerment is one of my values, one of my deeply held values that I've looked across my life. And like, these are the things I want to be in, spaces that empower people. I want to be in spaces where I'm empowered. I'm empowering them. This is part of the cycle of life for me. So I want them to close this book and be like, I'm ready to rock and roll and do whatever the hell it is I want to do to be the leader of my life.
I love that.
It's awesome.
And there's so many challenges in the world, right? We need people to show up that way,
right?
To rock and roll and to lead.
And you could say, hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
You can
I'll save my F-bombs for offline.
Yeah. For your launch.
Don't want too much editing to have to be done for this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Melissa, what did you learn about yourself in this process?
That I have a lot of empowerment left to give inside here, inside myself, and that I am walking the talk. I'm resilient. I knew that, and I don't think we should have to build resilience, but it's the way of the world now, and I've got some comeback power in me. Reflecting on my story and thinking about what stories I chose to share versus what I chose not to share, and just thinking about like the depths of me as a human. I have many gifts and many privileges, and I am doing the best damn job I can to use them, to share them, and to put them out into the world, and to be wielding my influence in the best way that I know how.
That's
Love
beautiful.
that. Yeah.
And you are doing it.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Thank you.
So I know that in the process of writing this book, and the last time we talked with you, you were talking about how that really winter was a time in the book writing process where you had to do a lot of editing. That's just part of the process. A lot of editing before the final comes out. Was there anything, I think of it kind of like a film, right? Where there's all this stuff it starts out as, and then a lot of it ends up on the floor, right? The cutting process, not probably literally anymore, but it used to be, right? Is there anything that you didn't get to say that you wanted to say? And who knows, maybe that's the next book, but not to push you into that, but anything that you didn't get to say.
I appreciate this question, and I'll let you into a funny-ish, not funny at the time, part of the process, that in developmental editing, so that's when you're writing the book, and then in revisions editing, when you're restructuring things, they teach you, or at least my book program, my publishing house that I work with had a program to teach us a little bit about the writing process, because I'm not a professional writer. I don't write for a living, so you have to learn these things as you go. And the process they talk about is called killing your darlings. And so it's those things where you're just like, I just love this phrase, or I love this story, but it does not have a place in this book. And for one reason or another, like it doesn't make sense on theme. It's not as clear to you as it is to the reader. Your editor's just like, is this what you really want to say? Like, this doesn't sound right. So you go through this process that is very humbling of killing your darlings. And so you take all of your snippets of like these things that you want to put into the book, feel strongly about, but ultimately they don't belong. That's what they say. They belong in the next book. So you put them in this little snippet graveyard kind of thing, another document. And so the thing that I remember most vividly, which isn't so much about, oh, I wish I could have said that and I want to otherwise, is in this process, you write with your brain, and you also write with your gut, and you also write with your heart. And depending on what was going on in my life, or how I was reliving a story or thinking about things from the past, I had a lot of moments where I wanted to justify myself and justify my actions, or, defend what I felt was a wrongdoing or something like that. And it was actually very healing and cathartic to put that down on paper, have my moment with it, feel the energy that came out of it, and then ask myself, is there a message or learning worth sharing and taking forward in here, or is this something that I can make peace with and leave behind? And when I coach people a lot, I'm sure, I'm curious your thoughts on this too, but a lot of people are thinking backwards and thinking about how they've been wronged and thinking about this person, that person. I'll give you the manager relationship specifically, right? I talk about this in the book. So many of us have had many, many bad leaders. We've had bad managers, bad leaders. We have workplace trauma drama, and we get hung up on it. And it's normal. It's understandable. It makes sense that we do. Those are visceral, bad experiences that we've had. And we have to ask ourselves, how long do we want to carry around what one client of mine and I developed that's in the book is, I call the backpack of crap. How long do you want to carry around your backpack of crap? And is it helping you? Is it helpful to carry that thing around? And usually, once you get to the point, you can laugh about it and say, no, absolutely not. Like, I don't need to carry around this workplace grudge because he said, she said, I said, they said, like, you don't need to carry that on. And so that's a lot of what got left on the cutting floor for me, because I can be a very confrontational person. I can have pretty hot energy when I'm passionate about something, or when I'm in like justice seeking mode. And this has given me the chance to really think from a coach's seat, work toward the non-judgment, work toward the insight, work toward the what do I need versus what can I and do I want to release to let go of that backpack of crap. And so I think I did a pretty good job of that. There's no spicy spice stories where I think somebody's going to read it and be like, oh, she's talking about me. But I was writing about very visceral personal experiences that brought up a lot for me. And this happens with my clients. And so I talk through this in the book some. We got to decide. It's up to us. What do we want to take from this? Are we ready to take the learning and move on? If we're not, do we need to go back, feel and heal so we can get real? And then when we move into the coaching and elevating ourselves and leveling up as leaders, the backpack of crap is not going to serve us or at least we need to be intentional about what we're carrying around in there and know, like, yes, this is in there for a purpose and that's okay, versus no, this is not helpful. So I tried to leave my backpack of crap on the cutting room floor in the Darlings graveyard as best I could. And I'll be curious how some of my inner circles that can read between some of those little Easter egg lines will receive it. There are little nuggets here and there. Yeah, so this is maybe getting a little bit more rambly into this answer because it's recalling some things, but the cutting room floor is mostly things that belong there and or got reshaped into something of like, what's the learning, what's the take forward, what is the empowered, connected, authentic piece of myself that I want to bring, rather than just, drama or wrongdoing that I want to like come out on top and now have your name in a book about it. I don't use anybody's. I use a few real names, but any anecdotes that I use are actually not people's real names, and I've spliced stories here and there to protect anonymity and stuff like that, because I do have client stories in here, and I get to celebrate a lot of my clients, and I wanted this book to focus on celebrating them rather than airing out dirty laundry.
Yeah.
What a fascinating process, though, of going through and pulling out the things that you might be really attached to. But at the end of the day, it's probably not going to sell a book, right? Or it's not going to be that one thing that people latch onto and say, oh, I really needed this moment, right?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that this book, I can't wait to read it, by the way. I have the e-version of it, and I'm actually not even going to use that much. I'm going to use it a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and purchase a hard copy today if I can.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You can.
So, when I think about what you've been talking about, it sounds to me like there are opportunities throughout this book to show how thriving can happen, or how thriving does happen, right? But let me ask you, how are you thriving in 25? Because that's our theme.
Our theme
Leaders
for
Thrive
this
in
year.
25.
Yeah.
So let's...
How
are you thriving?
How am I thriving in 2025? It's a hell of a thing to talk about in 2025.
Which is why we're talking about it.
Yep.
Yeah. And in each chapter I have, wrapping things up, it has a level up lesson and then a your move. And that's kind of how I try to live my life right now. I work through a lot of what we talked about, like the cutting room floor stuff, like what stays on the cutting room floor, or the like need to have a processing moment with this situation and decide what I want to carry around, and being really thoughtful and in choice about what that thing is. That's how I'm thriving in 2025. So it's like, have your emotions, have your moment, have your frustrations, have your stress. But if I opted to doom scroll all the time, if I opted to only commiserate with my friends about how everything's shitty right now, if I had to just stay steeped in problems, either of my own or of the world, things within my control or out of my control, it's just a really heavy time to do that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is the, like, what is out there in our natural state these days. Like, there's plenty of misery and suffering, and we can steep in that together, and there needs to be some grief and healing through it too. And so I've latched onto in 2025 of do the grief and healing and the processing, but also make some moves.
Right.
So that's each chapter, as I wrap the lessons and bring it forward, I have a few simple your move questions, and they're to prompt reflection, to prompt and promote action, or to promote and prompt intentional inaction, because that's an action too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Drawing boundaries, deciding when to click out, and deciding how you want to engage with some of life's heavy stuff. We have to be really thoughtful about it. And millennials talk about this quite a lot. And I know every generation does this and has lived through this too. But you go into this middle zone of life where many people are raising kids, or they're helping with their parents that are aging and ailing parents. And you're trying to juggle everything at work and lead a team. and you're trying to be a healthy version of yourself, and you're trying to do your healing, and you're trying to do your exercise, and you're trying to eat healthy, and you're trying to stay connected to your friends, and you're trying to get 7 hours of sleep. And it's just so much. And I didn't want this book to be an overwhelming how-to guide, because I've read a lot of books like that too, a lot of self-help books that it's like, if you journal for 2 hours every day and you meditate for an hour in the morning and you do this and that, like even some of the like shorter clip things of like the 5-second rule and different, I don't know, different mantras out there. There's just like too much mantra and practice for me. So I wanted to simplify to how can I be a little bit more reflective? How can I be a little bit more intentional? And how can I give myself back and help my clients give back some agency? And that's what's getting me not just from the survival mode, but into the thriving mode of 2025, because there are heavy things happening and we have to be selective about where we're giving and getting energy. And we can do that with a lot of intentionality and choice, and also not make it overly complicated and heavy for ourselves in a world and a life that is already feeling a little heavy on the shoulders.
Yeah. It's like the better self-help book in a way. You know, self-help, that's another type of book that I'm not spending a lot of time in right now, because it seems like there are a dime a dozen. You get so many of them cross over. You see some of the same stuff, but to your point, you know, journaling for 2 hours, come on. You know, I can't even sometimes come up with one word. So, you know, it's like, where do we start, right? Yeah. And once I get to a point that I've put 10 or 15 minutes into something, I'm ready to move on. So, so this is a breath of fresh air. Great.
Yeah. How do we cool down to what's most essential?
Yes.
Yeah. To help us thrive. Yeah. And I think the other thing that you were saying is recognizing sometimes it feels like all we're doing is trying to survive. And that is where the burnout ends up, right? And so we really do have to step into the thriving, whether that's just about being present in the moment. It's like, you know what? In this moment, I am okay. In this moment, I can look out my window and I can see the hummingbird at the feeder, and I can spend and last time you talked about, and I have stole that phrase, but I give you credit, the pockets of peace.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, that is just, for me, such a cool concept to say, I don't have to have it all together, but today I'm going to find a pocket of peace. And that helps me thrive, because I can actually be in that moment, and that, you know, resets the body and all of that stuff. So it does matter to kind of move from pocket to pocket of peace. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, you have to disrupt that cycle of busyness that we're all in. And, you know, I've been this person before where I'm like, a friend reaches out to schedule time to meet up or chat, and I'm like, yeah, I'll talk to you in 3 months or so. Let's put it out on the calendar. And I'm just like, how have I gotten to this place where I'm so busy that I can't have a 20-minute chat with a friend here and there? And we really have to, like, to cultivate those pockets of peace, we have to disrupt the busyness cycle. And that, I think that comes back to this premise of the book of that, is our life driving by without us on autopilot, or are we leading it how we want to? And it can be so hard in this frenetic environment and all the many things that are happening in it to slow down, find pockets of peace, be intentional about our influence, and make that choice to lead on purpose rather than just by default or by survival busyness mode. Because that's the question, right? And there's the privilege back in that answer too of, are we really in survival mode, or do we have a house over our heads? Are we really in survival mode, or can we pay our bills? Because there are plenty of people that cannot and that do not have the privilege to even ask that question of, do I have to be in survival mode, or is my environment just fueling that feeling of busyness and survival and stress and adrenaline and cortisol? And we can cultivate and curate our neural pathways in a different direction with some small practices, some small go for a walk, notice the hummingbird feeder, you know, these little things. They add up in big ways, and they snowball in a positive effect just as much as the reverse, snowballing backwards into negativity and doom, gloom, misery. And I think asking that question and answering it with, okay, if you are safe and stable in a way that you can keep moving forward, then how do you want to cultivate your space and the people you're around, the spaces you're in, and what you're doing with your time and your energy? Because as we all know, time flies by, and you've got one life to live. So live it on your own terms, or it will live on whatever terms you are, carried off in the wind with.
Yeah, and you want to have control over that, right? Or some control anyway, as much as you can have. And that is something that I agree with you. There's so many people out there that kind of feel like the world is coming at them and influencing everything they do, and they're just going along for the ride. And they don't realize that if they stepped off the wagon for a moment, they would have they have more control than they think they do. And no, I like that.
Yeah. So thriving in 25, it's an intentional act.
An almost elusive one, but it's an intentional one.
Yeah. What is next for you? And we kind of know what that is with the book, right? I mean, that is amazing. Yeah.
One thing I will share about the book is that, so yes, the book is published and out in the world now, and the last part of my book publishing contract and program is that I will be recording the audiobook version of it.
Oh, wonderful.
That is happening. Yeah, it's almost like I haven't fully wrap my head around that, but that's coming up at the end of May into June. I'll start recording and getting to, I had the choice. Do I want to let somebody else read my book, or do I read it myself? And I'm like, no. Like, this is a nonfiction book. This is my story. This is my clients, my deal. It will take a bit of time to do. And, I got to learn how to be an author. Now I'm going to learn how to be a little bit of a voice actress person. Not actress, but, a voice reader. And I'm like, I can't not use my voice to tell my story. So that's what's the next big exciting thing. I'm going to learn how to record and release an audiobook.
That's exciting. Wow, that's cool.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, love it.
I'll
need some tips from you all. I'll need some tips on the microphones, the headphones, the setup. I need to do a little bit of soundproofing in the room, all kinds of stuff. So that's the next exploratory horizon that it's a whole new adventure I know nothing about.
We had another author, actually probably now a couple of years ago, Farah, and she did her own. She recorded her own. It took quite a while, and she just recently came out with it, and very excited, but it's a process. So, we'll be cheering you on, and hopefully we'll get a chance to chat somewhere in the middle and see how you're coming along with it. That'd be great.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited. Millennials love an audiobook situation, and I'm one of them. And I either am doing paperback or audiobooks these days, because I want to love ebooks, and the ebook is available for people that love them. It's great. But having the hard copy in your hand is one thing, so you can do your highlights and your tabs. And the audiobook, so that you can actually listen or re-listen. I do a lot of cleaning and driving and stuff with audiobooks, so I'm excited that I know a lot of my millennial peers do the same, and it's A
lot of your non-millennial peers do the same thing. I do. I have an entire library of audiobooks. I love them. But also,
it's just a different experience.
Yeah,
it really is.
I love to also hear it through the author's voice, so I'm really glad you're doing it yourself.
Yeah.
Well, only you could tell, because you're the one that wrote it, right? To me, that's like you're speaking your own words, and that's way more authentic. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it will be one of those things, too, where you also want to check the imposter syndrome and all this, and what if I find a typo?
No.
Hey, I am one of those people who highlights almost every page. I've got something going on in tabs. So when you said that, I was thinking, she knows what's going to happen when I come to bring my book to be signed. It'll have stuff in it.
A friend sent me a picture with the tabs in her book already, and I'm like, I am honored to see your colorful tabs, because I'm a tab person too, and there's, like I said, there's reflection questions and things in there. There's a few coaching moments and not full on go right out and start journaling, but there's some good reflection questions, and I am a person who likes to kick things around in my brain. So I hope that people will be able to, whether they read it or listen to it, pick up some of these kernels and be like, I don't know. I do need to think about that a little bit and turn that over here and there. And that's where the coaching guide piece of it comes into play of, if you don't have time or you want to add on to your coaching, or you, for whatever reason, or, one reason or another, are having issue with accessibility of getting into coaching sessions with someone, my hope is that this will bring some coaching to you.
Yeah, I love it. Great. So, Melissa, where can they get the book?
Thank you for asking. As of now, the book is live on Amazon.
Okay.
And it's in the process of being available through bookshop.org, which is where I mainly want to promote it once it's there. But as of this week, it's live on Amazon. Would love and welcome and appreciate help with the algorithm, which is leaving reviews on there. Reviews make such a big deal for self-published authors, because the major books you see on Amazon and things like that through traditional publishing, there's so much marketing money poured into that is putting those ads at the top of your feed. So liking it or reviewing it or following me on there is a big, big help that I am just so grateful to everybody. But yeah, so it's on Amazon, and hopefully in the next week or two, I'll have it available on bookshop.org, and then I'll switch over my links and everything so that people can go through bookshop.org, because that's what I would prefer. So for those listeners that aren't familiar, bookshop.org is how you buy books through your local bookstores. So it's an online bookshop, but you can select your local booksellers and get the proceeds over to your local booksellers. And you can actually filter by women-owned, you can filter by minority-owned businesses, you can filter by LGBTQ friendly, you can do different filterings of how you want to support bookshops through bookshop.org. And as a self-published author, I'm really trying to go indie bookstore first and encourage people to shop local where I can. But
I love it.
Yeah, it is on Amazon, and that's the fastest way to get it for right now. But there's a whole back-end author process where you work with Ingram and get it uploaded into Bookshop. So working on that.
Cool. All right. I love that.
We will make sure we put that in the show notes so that people have, someplace that they can, refer to too. And how soon do you think you might have it in Bookshop?
It should be in the next week or so.
Okay.
It shouldn't be too long. Good. Yeah. It's all published on that side of things. It's just a matter of, the online systems, I don't know, the cloud, the technical components of the book world. You learn a lot of technical things that you have no idea how all this works in the background, but
you just had to wait for the right cloud to come by, right?
It's quite a maze of like what's going on out there in the world and how books get distributed and printed and all these things. And I will be going to all of my local bookshops that are willing to carry it and dropping off copies.
Good.
Because I learned that indie bookshops, if they don't have to do the big distribution and shipping and all that, that's a big benefit to them. And so I reached out to about 15 bookshops yesterday. Oh. And in the next couple of weeks, I'll be making some rounds around all the Seattle and East Side areas up here and see where folks are willing to carry it. And so that's the other part of this exciting adventure, is selling the book and just getting out there and talking to people and being in the community. So I'm looking forward to that.
Wow. That sounds like a lot of fun, actually. This is where the fun starts, right? You've gone through the hard part of actually, basically depositing your soul on paper.
Yes.
Right?
The writing cave, being in the writing cave.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm unleashed now, and I have now an excellent excuse to go explore many, many bookstores, which I'm very excited about. And we'll have to be careful with, because I'm like, I need to go get rid of books, not take them home.
Well, and you're going to these smaller bookstores, but there might be opportunities for you to do like book reads and stuff, reading moments, right? I think that's an awesome idea. It's another way to get your book purchased.
Yeah.
Right?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. So leaving the last word to you, Melissa, anything else that you would like to share before we sign off?
I would just say, I hope that people have the chance to lead from within. I've seen the power of what can happen when we do channel what's inside and we take it to the outside and we make some moves with it. And I know we're in a bit of a storm right now, and it's hard to be hopeful and it's hard to look forward. but there is actually a lot we can do, and we have so much influence and impact that we can cultivate in our circles of the world. We can create our pockets of peace. We can connect with and empower each other. We can ground ourselves in the kinds of lives that we want to live and not just index on all the bad stuff out there. So that is my hope for everybody, that you take care of yourselves and you look into ways that you can move past just the get by and level up where you can and want to and make some moves.
Buy the book, people.
Yes.
And buy the book. Yeah, I would love for you to buy the book. I'd love to hear what people think about it.
Yes.
I'd love questions. I'm going to get some events rolling and things like that. Some will be online, some will be in person, and that will be unfolding in the coming months, and the audiobook will be out and about. But I'm also happy to talk to people that are aspiring authors. And next month, I think it will be June 17th, I'm going to do an ICF coaches who write, not really a workshop, but a talk about the process. And it's a cool way to bring some connection and some impact to folks that you wouldn't otherwise have reached to. And so that's the next piece of my coaching side of this is, how do I use this to make coaching more accessible and bring people into that fold? And since it's Friday of International Coaching Week, I thought I'd make that little plug for coaches and aspiring clients alike.
Yeah.
It's very generous of you, actually. That's wonderful.
Love that. All right. Well, thank you again, and congratulations on your book. And we know you'll be back at some point. So
thank you.
Thanks
for having me.
Take care.
You're going to become our regular.
You too. I look forward to it.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow, that was amazing. I loved it. Her energy just blows me away.
I know. I'm just so happy for her that the book is out in the world, you know, and there's so much richness to the book, and it's needed. It's really needed.
We've known her for a couple of years, and she's been talking about, I think in the very beginning, she was talking about writing a book, but she hadn't really even started yet, I don't believe. And so now, just a few years later, to see that she's got a book and it's up for sale already, I'm so excited for her.
And it's so impactful. You know, I think when we think about making a better world, this idea of authenticity and leading from where you're at, it's just so important when we think about all the challenges we have in the world today. It takes all of us. We all have different strengths.
Yes.
And so it takes all those strengths together to make a better world. So I'm really excited to see where this book goes.
Yeah, I'm very interested in getting the book and reading it like this week, because I loved what she was talking about, where we really kind of came down to the idea that it's a really deep dive. You know, you're really getting into the crux of how you feel about things, you know, and how things are landing with you. And until you do that, I don't know that we can ever really get away from angst and things that we feel, because we haven't gotten right with the underlying issue, right?
Yeah.
So this is great. So let's keep that conversation going. If you have questions or comments about the show, you can find us on all our social media channels at lifting_leaders. We have so many exceptional podcast episodes coming up with more fantastic guests just like Melissa. So be sure, well, maybe not just like Melissa. So be sure to subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. If you know someone who would find this episode inspiring, share it with them. Text them, email them, or take a screenshot and share it on your Instagram and tag us at lifting_leaders. If you'd like to know more about us, our guests, or the show, please go to our website at liftingleaderspodcast.com. You'll find our show notes there as well. If you're looking for help in developing your leaders or would like a growth opportunity yourself through leader coaching, please contact us through our website at www.liftingleaderspodcast.com. Thank you to Ari Chance Roberts for his technical support of our show. Finally, please take 30 seconds and follow us. It helps you because you never miss an episode. And it helps us because
you never miss an episode.
Oh my gosh. To follow us, just go to Lifting Leaders Podcast Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it, YouTube, iHeartRadio, wherever. And then just tap the plus sign in the upper right-hand corner or click on the follow. While you're there, if you'd be willing to give us a 5-star rating and review and share the episode with a friend, we'd be very grateful. Thank you so much, Crystal, for bringing Melissa back to us.
It was really fun.
It was. Many thanks to you, our listeners. We so appreciate your listening to us every week. Find ways every day to lift each other up. Take care.
Bye.